for people that have been paying attention for really any nominal amount of time, it wasn't that long ago that the idea that F5 and Cisco would have an alliance with one another was laughable. It was laughable. There was no way these two would get together and collaborate with one another, but that's in fact exactly what's happening now. And the reason is because our customers and our partners are asking us to do so. So with that, I want to bring out our next guest speaker. She's the SVP of Marketing at Cisco Systems, Soni Janjani. Thank you very much. Bring her out. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to have you sit over here on the far right.
Are you Manny?
How are you? Nice seeing you. Well, you're moving us.
I'm moving, yes.
Wow.
Well, it's a spice of life.
I don't get to move.
Before we dive into it, Sonia, I think you flew in today for this.
Yes, an hour ago.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And I don't want to brag on Manny's behalf, but he walked all the way from backstage to be here.
I heard.
By comparison. So getting into it, you made a big announcement in November. Cisco announcing the application-centric infrastructure, ACI, as we've come to call it. You were witnessing trends in the marketplace, presumably, that drove Cisco to go in that direction. How do you see that changing the way, how are you seeing data center instrumentation changing as a result of the ACI construct? What were you seeing and what do you think is going to happen?
Well, if you have been tracking what Cisco's been doing for the last couple of decades, we really have been very centered around looking at technology transitions. And we saw a technology transition coming about in the area of highly programmable, highly automated, and system-oriented networking. I don't like to call it software. I like to call it system-driven networks. Because when you have to treat any element with app centricity, you have to think about the system. You cannot think about either a virtual machine-oriented view or a hardware-only oriented view. You have to think about the network as a system. And as we see it, now that we are shipping ACI to customers, and it's in production environments across the globe, we're seeing our customers really appreciating the notion of a system management approach, viewing the network not as a collection of boxes, but approaching it with app centricity, and the ability really to take advantage of that instrumentation, that automation, to drive a more app-centric model through the policy that can traverse both virtualized environments as well as bare metal environments, because that's the real world. Our customers have a lot of native bare metal applications evolving, including big data, which is distributed and scale out in nature and bare metal in nature. They have mission-critical applications running SAP, running Oracle databases that are bare metal in nature. And then there are workloads that are virtualized in nature. And with the evolution of the container models, you're going to see an even stronger mix of those environments happening within the IT and within the data centers. So there's a lot of evolution that we are seeing, and the market and our customers are embracing that in a very open manner, because there's a natural tendency to want to move towards the cloud. So all of these attributes really are enabling not only an on-premise private cloud model, but also enabling our customers to get ready for the hybrid cloud models.
So transformation, I don't think that's a hyperbolic word to use. There's a transformation going on. You're nurturing that transformation. Not to put words in your mouth, but maybe you feel some responsibility to guide your customers through that transformation. If that's true, or not quite true, tweak it. How are you guiding your customers through that transformation?
So investment protection is a very important part of this transformation. If you are told, go about changing your operational model and change the day jobs of people overnight, it ain't going to happen. If you can't introduce evolution and instead you introduce revolution, you have a mess on your hands. So investment protection begins by sharing with our customers how do they continue to protect their IP network assets, how do they protect their F5 assets, how do they protect their firewall assets, and yet in a step-by-step manner move towards modernizing their data centers as they get to embrace 10 gig and 40 gig. We have been shipping the Nexus 9K for over 6 months now and have hundreds of customers in production with it. And they want to methodically take that approach of deploying and modernizing their data centers while leveraging the investments they have in place, and then migrating towards an app-centric model and a policy model that can allow them to take the current operational staff they have in place and evolve towards that transformation, and use the skill set and the tools that they are already deploying to not have to throw that out of the environments, but also to see a methodical way of driving that automation and while transforming towards a cloud-based model. Some like to call it the DevOps model, which is wanting that level of automation, but more of an out-of-box experience, as opposed to having to have a bunch of Python programmers on staff, which majority of our customers do not have. There are a handful of cloud customers in the world that might have those. So I believe that we definitely are seeing very strong interest from our customers as this technology is going into production. And we are engaged with numerous verticals and numerous partners as we get ready for making our customers successful in this journey.
So Frank, I saw him come in. He's in the audience. Frank's been busy with the Worldwide Data Center sales organization. So slightly different prism through which F5 views it, but very similar picture as it relates to these transformations. Anything that you would add, Manny?
No, I mean, for us, it's great. It's awesome to watch the industry focus on the application. I think because the point I tried to make on the keynote is Sandhill Road or startups are very good about focusing on a box, and the industry has been very focused on that for 30 years, rightfully so. That's the way the industry grew up, right? It grew up from bare connectivity up through services. And what I think IT shops have lost sight of, I'll give you one data point, customer will go nameless. They have over 300,000 employees inside the company, so big company. They have 30,000 people that do innovation in IT, of which they have 3,000 that do network. Out of the 3,000, 80% of them do nothing but break fix, right? They walk around plugging in cables, upgrading firmware, doing that kind of stuff. So there's really almost zero value there. And what they want is they want solutions, right? That you can automate and orchestrate that. And it really starts by looking at it completely different. If you put the app at the center, the conversations are all different. It's not about approaching a firewall and thinking, how am I going to open up 3 port numbers with these IP addresses while I have another 100,000 rules, and where do I stick it? Where's the right place to stick it? It's really simple as it pertains to that application. It's a couple IP addresses and a couple of port numbers. So as soon as the industry starts to shift and think about things much more from an app-centric perspective, the policies for that app become cleaner. Right? The things become a lot easier to programmatize and deliver. And those are the frameworks that we've been looking at for a long time, whether it be iApps or other things that we do inside our platform. So it's great to see that everybody's converging around the application. I think that'll generate a lot of value for all of our customers.
And I would like to add to what Manny just said, right? I mean, it does not take away the requirements to deploy the network. And one of the key things that we did do with ACI is we turned it on its head. We said, what if I could build a network with zero-touch provisioning? What if I did not have to worry about which ports are wired where? What if the network had the ability to tell me if there were some issues around wiring? What if I could inspire the concept of not having to troubleshoot a network at a box level, but to have the ability to correlate the telemetry metrics at a network-wide level? What if we could integrate application delivery controllers as well in that troubleshooting activity? What if iApps then can be integrated for a SharePoint as part of the APIC controller so that when it's time for me to deploy the SharePoint application, I don't just have a network-centric view, but it also includes the application delivery controllers. And the notion of that becomes at a system level. So these jobs do not get taken away, but with ACI, we really are trying to drive the notion of zero-touch deployment, of the ability to go ahead and weave in the policy-centric models, which F5 has had for a while, but also have the network tightly integrating those app-centric policy models and bringing that level of automation across your networking teams, your security teams, your application teams, and the cloud automation teams.
So it's been only 9 months since the announcement of ACI, but you've been engaging in a lot of customer conversations. We know that. You've referenced that earlier. As I noted, Frank's team has been very busy pursuing meaningful conversations with customers that are interested in deploying ACI and frankly plan to do so and are doing so. Are there common patterns that are already starting to emerge? Because you described the opportunity Venn diagram, which is vast, but are there some typical patterns that you're seeing emerge early on?
Yeah, we are seeing customers ranging from a very broad spectrum of markets that we sell to, whether it is the cloud providers and the hosted providers that want to drive the notion of a cloud consumption model and offer different types of services across that automated, programmable environment and offer different set of services across that infrastructure. We are also seeing a variety of our enterprise customers that are looking to build out cloud environments with ACI as they are modernizing their infrastructure and they're moving some of their cloud apps into an ACI-centric environment, keeping automation and an on-demand, a service-oriented model in mind for IT. And we are seeing commercial customers that are embracing it because of the lower OpEx and CapEx model, where they get the ability to have shared infrastructure and treat different applications as multiple tenants and offer different level of services with high degrees of security where you need it, fine-grained control, and the ability yet to have it across a shared infrastructure. So we are starting to see the use cases primarily around environments where customers are looking to embrace, as I said earlier, the DevOps model or an experience out of the box as they start to modernize their data centers and as they move towards the next level of agility and an app-centric model going forward.
Any surprises? Anything that's started to emerge that you didn't anticipate? You know, life is messy. The real world's a messier place than we draw it up as.
You know, I spend at least 60% of my day and my life with customers. And what was refreshing is when we have been talking to not only our traditional networking customers, but also those that are playing an important role in the definition of cloud-based services. Most of the responses has been, this took you longer than I thought.
Oh.
Yeah, it's about time, Cisco, that you are taking this approach. You are taking a system-wide approach.
Smoking a cigarette and saying, what took you so long, right? That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's refreshing to see how keen customers are to move forward with us on this technology.
So you heard me in the preamble talk about ecosystems. You heard me ask our previous speaker about this subject. You know, and again, you heard me make a joke about, you know, it wasn't that long ago, we weren't partners with one another, and here we are having this conversation in front of everybody. I think the audience would benefit hearing a little bit about Cisco's philosophy about technology alliances, and while you're doing that, it would make sense to layer in the posture with open standards.
Well, let's answer that in two parts. You talked about standardization. At the core of ACI are really three tenets from an openness point of view. One is the whole notion of open standards. I call ourselves a $40 billion IP company. IP is based on standards. It could not have been a $40 billion industry for Cisco to build an internet off of if IP wasn't a common language spoken by the whole world to base the internet off of. So standardization is a core part of this architecture, and both standards-based RESTful APIs northbound, through which we integrate with vendors like F5, and the partnership will continue to get deeper across your iRules, as well as leveraging IAPS and some of those interfaces to drive more of an app-centric policy model as you think about your network and network services, utilizing those northbound APIs. And then the standardization of a southbound interface, so that when you think about the infrastructure, it is cognizant of an app-centric policy model. And that's a protocol called UpFlex, which we are driving for standardization at the IETF, where multiple vendors have gotten together across hypervisors, across the network infrastructure, layer 4 through 7 devices, to have that app-centric view and the definition of the policy using a common southbound interface model, which is a declarative model, not an imperative model. The second key area has to do with the whole notion of an OpenStack interface, where Cisco not only has been contributing a lot of automation-related elements for the plugins for Neutron, we are also taking the entire policy framework and moving it into a Neutron plugin, which will ship with every APIC controller, allowing our customers to just write to the APIC to the OpenStack interface, and yet take advantage of the entire development community's contributions to OpenStack simultaneously. And the third really has to do with a policy model and an object model which ships with every APIC controller, providing not just us the latitude to integrate through those open APIs, but also customers to take advantage of that RESTful interface. And whether it's homegrown tools, whether it's off-the-shelf orchestration tools you already have in deployment in your production environments, or you want to deploy the emerging cloud management tools, whether it's Puppet or Chef or Splunk, and you want to take advantage of those RESTful interfaces and have access to that entire object model. So openness is a core part of our strategy, and it also has to do with investment protection. Customers are not going to walk away as they bring ACI into their existing brownfield data centers of existing operational tools. They're not going to get rid of their best-of-breed suppliers, where the intelligence has to reside in the edges and cannot reside on some centralized controller telling them what to do and being potentially a single point of failure, which is definitely not the model of the APIC controller. And finally, I'm very excited about this partnership and the ecosystem. We have over 33 partners on ACI, whether they're ranging from hypervisor companies, layer 4 through 7 services, partnerships that we have, including with F5. And what's equally exciting is not just the integration of the technologies and the policy models that we are integrating to deliver a system-wide experience for networking and network services, and that's multi-vendor in nature from a hypervisor perspective and supports bare metals, but also the notion whereby we are coming together as two companies to offer a common support model. So the customer will have the ability to make one phone call, as opposed to trying to figure out, where do I troubleshoot? Where did things go wrong? Because when you have a system-oriented view, you want a single throat to choke. You want to have the ability for the system to tell you at a system level, and for somebody to be on the other end of the phone that'll have the ability to help you get to day 1 and day 2 operations and troubleshooting capabilities with much more ease.
You look like you've been itching to dive in.
No, I was going to say yes to all that. Those are all integration points that we have currently going on.
Yes.
With Cisco, so it's great. I mean, but you were going to ask a question.
I was going to ask, I think most people know you spent some time at Cisco. This is not the first time you two have sat next to each other. I tried to get her to make a joke at your expense, but she's
19 years together.
Yeah.
So whether from your Cisco experience or from the experience you have from at F5, getting closer to 3 years at F5, now anything you would have added to what Sony?
No, I think Sony captured it well. I mean, those are all areas that we're integrating mostly in the data center environment, but we also have integration points, SourceFire. So next generation IPS technology integrating with big IP, doing some pretty unique solutions from an IPS point of view. We have integration points with UCS and bringing up VM, including CVDs, right? We have integration points with their voice technology and how we scale and allow Cisco to scale the voice technology from a traffic management and traffic engineering point of view. So there's lots of integration points. I made the point before with Ben that the roadmap is broad. The roadmap with Cisco is very broad. Obviously, $40 billion of revenue, lots of different products, lots of different technology. There isn't a data center you probably walk in the world that doesn't have a lot of Cisco equipment in it. So as a result of that, the integration points are going to vary. And they're going to be everything from the modernization of the data center to integration to the cloud, potentially integration points around intercloud, new things that they're doing, voice, video, the list goes on and on. We see the complement of the technology stack being able to solve lots of challenges. And then we look forward to helping drive some of those standards too.
Yes.
Which we are. We're part of that. We're part of Oplex, and we want to help drive those standards because we think the more openness, the easier it is to then plug and demonstrate the total value that we could bring of a solution to the market. So pretty exciting times. Lots to do.
That is for sure. So we have about 1.5 minutes left, Sony. Is there a subject that you would have liked to touched upon that I didn't give you an opportunity to share with the audience? Or Do you want to put this man on the spot and ask him a question?
You had big news. You did something. Didn't you announce something yesterday, today?
We did, well,
Released?
we're shipping ACI now.
Yeah.
That's how I started. I'm very excited about this. But let me ask you a question, Manny. I mean, you've been in the networking sector of the market now for over 2 decades. What do you think is the power of ACI and the work we're doing with F5? And how do you think it will impact the industry?
Yeah, so look.
And our customers mostly.
Yeah, well, first of all, being all customer driven. So customers are dictating what use cases we go to market first with, and that was all customer input. But the reality of it is technology will always evolve. And as a result of that, organizations need to evolve, right? There's no question that people want to drive application velocity, take cost out of their network. How you solve that problem is going to vary, right? There's lots of different solutions in the market. But to be successful quite often, you have to evolve the organization. The organization has to be able to adopt these new business models that's out there. So one of the things I do like about the APIC integration is it's very, it enhances the traditional model by bringing a new set of tools so you can create this system point of view that allows different people to participate in that and deliver those services. So the beautiful thing is about you could realize the value real quickly inside an environment, and the amount of transformation that you have to force on an organization is not as great, potentially. That's a very strong value proposition that you're taking to the market, and definitely something that we want to be part of. What we're trying to do, quite frankly, is participate in that transformation and also be disruptive in that transformation by helping lead this concept of service consolidation. Right? We know it's all about service graphing. We know it's about chaining services per flow. So as these networks evolve and you take this system approach, the application services can also be enhanced. And we look forward to that partnership and participating in the private data center, in the public data center, in the hybrid environments that are out there in the future.
Yes, I agree with you. It's going to be a journey for all of us in the industry.
Yes, indeed. That ends our session. So, Soni, thank you. Manny, thank you. My thanks go out to Ben as well. So that ends the session. This is just a taste of many of the integration points that you can learn about when you go to the Solution Expo. So please, this evening when that opens up, do yourself a favor, spend time with our sponsors. You will definitely be rewarded for that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.